We will just be another 5 minutes due to the in-camera meeting, and we'll be starting very shortly. Could I ask all council members to please take their seats? Thank you. For those who are able to stand, please stand for the prayer and remain standing for the national anthem. Almighty God, let us work together to serve our people. Dieu Tout-Puissant, aidez-nous à travailler ensemble pour bien servir nos citoyens. Now I'd like to ask Councillor EYYhHBwMKdY to present the national anthem singer.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce two students from Maryville High School who are here to both sing and play the piano for us this morning. This is a bit of a shot at Councillor Cloutier, but we like to think of Maryville as Canterbury West. And we think we do it as well, if not better. So there's a challenge for you going forward. We have this morning Safira Galani, who is going to sing O Canada, accompanied by Shayu on the piano. They're both in grade 12 at Maryville High School. And Safira has been singing since she can remember and playing piano for 11 years. Both recently completed a 6-performance run of Maryville's production of Singing in the Rain, with Safira with a singing part and Shayu backing up in the band. So without further ado, I turn it over to these two lovely ladies to lead us in the national anthem.
True patriot love in all our sons command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you very much for that beautiful rendition. Thank you. On behalf of Mayor Jim Watson, I would like to invite Jacques Seguin to the podium for this meeting's City Builders Award presentation. I would also like to ask Councillor Stephen Blais to come on up also.
In this Francophonie month in Ottawa, it is my pleasure to underline the work of a Francophone, of the extraordinary work of a Francophone in our community.
Not only do we have a modern downtown core, but we have several rural villages that add to our city's social, economic, and diversity. Preserving the character of our rural villages is an important and necessary task.
Preserving the character of our rural villages is an important and necessary task.
Le 130e anniversaire et grâce au leadership de Jean et de nombreux autres sont à prévoir. Jean fut président de l'association communautaire de Vars pendant de nombreuses années et son implication a touché tout le village, et plus que le village, tout the Cumberland. Not only is Jean a tireless advocate for the village of ours, he is equally committed to its residents. Working with both French and English service organizations in the local congregation, Jean spearheaded the creation of the VARS Summer Youth Program. Le programme qui est à sa 3e année encourage les jeunes de participer dans
This program, at its 3rd year, is encouraging youth to participate in civic institutions. Jean contributed to the creation of many programs, including the community garden, which helps residents of support housing in Vars.
Was included in the only rural destination in the Ottawa Market Mobile, bringing healthy, fresh food to the community. Among his other accomplishments, Jean's leadership led to the renewal of the Senatat Memorial and the establishment of the annual sing-along and lighting of the village Christmas tree. Pour lui, aucune tâche n'est trop simple, ni trop compliquée.
For him, no work is too simple or too complicated, whether it be taking care of the community skating rink, supporting the community association during the youth programs, or to make sure that there's always drinks and biscuits during those activities for children. Jean has an incredible passion for his community.
And many more. I present you with the Mayor's City Builders Awards. Congratulations. Jean, voulez-vous dire quelques mots?
Jean, would you like to speak?
Council members, thank you very, very much for this opportunity. You cannot build a community by oneself. It's a team effort. With my colleagues of the VARS Community Association, the VARS Optimist Club, the school, the parishes, we were able to, I guess, put VARS back on the map in this wonderful city of ours. A special thank you to city staff. I see my colleague Suzanne Sanford here. I know Adam Brown is probably here or not here. These are the people who actually help us out in obtaining guidance and financing for our projects. To Councillor Blais and his staff, a special thank you for their support and encouragement in making this happen. Mon épouse,
To my wife, my 2 kids, thank you. Thank you very much for your patience, for your encouragement and your support.
even around this table at Council, merits certainly a part of this award. So on behalf of our community of VARS, thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Now, before we begin, I would also like to ask Councillor Cloutier to make a statement.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair.
Je voudrais porter à votre attention dans
I'd like to attract to your attention the class of Mr. Sigouin. They're in the 10th grade of Franco-Cité, and they're visiting the city. Welcome.
Franco-Cité était l'ancien.
Franco-Cité was the former school of our colleague, Councillor Fleury. He was there 3 months ago or something like that. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cloutier. Mrs. Clerk Workall.
Councillor Middick.
Present.
Councillor Harder. Here. Councillor Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor El-Shantiri.
Present.
Excuse me. Councillor Caudry.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Ici.
Councillor Shirelli.
Here.
Councillor Egli.
Here.
Councillor Deans.
Here.
Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Conseiller Fleury.
Si.
Councillor Nussbaum.
Present.
Councillor McKenney.
Present.
Councillor Leeper.
Here.
Councillor Brockington.
Here.
Councillor Chernyshenko.
Present.
Conseiller Cloutier.
Présent.
Conseiller Blais.
Présent.
Councillor DeRuse.
Here.
Councillor Moffat.
Here.
Councillor Kakish.
Present.
Councillor Hubley.
Here.
Mayor Watson. Le quorum est 10, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Confirmations of minutes. Declarations of interest, including those originally arising from prior meetings. Councillor Leeper has a declaration.
Thank you, Chair. I, Councillor Jeff Leeper, declare a potential deemed indirect pecuniary interest on Council Agenda 8, Item 5, Audit Committee Report 2, Office of the Auditor General, OAG, Annual Report and Detailed Audit Report, Review of City Funding to the Ottawa School of Speech and Drama, as my wife had an affiliation with the Ottawa School of Speech and Drama.
Thank you, Councillor Leeper. Communications as presented. Received. Regrets as noted. Motions to introduce reports. Councillor Fleury and seconded by Councillor Tierney.
Merci. Que le rapport numéro...
That the report from the Selection Panel, Property Standards and License Appeals Committee, Report 1, the report from the City Clerk and Solicitor entitled Status Update, Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending the 20th of March 2015, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Report 2A, Audit Committee Reports 1A and 2, Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 2A, Planning Committee Reports 3B and 4, and Transportation Committee 2A be received and considered, and that the rules of procedure be suspended to receive and consider a matter arising from the Special Transit Commission meeting of March 25th, 2015, with respect to OC Transpo Management's collective bargaining with the Amalgamated Transit Unions and the Canadian Union of Public Employees. Waiver of the rules is being requested as it is in the city's best interests to consider this matter immediately. Mr. Councillor, Attorney.
In the consent agenda, Councillor Blais and Councillor... Oh, sorry. Learning in progress here. Adopting. Thank you. Before consent agenda, Councillor Blais and Kakish have a motion on the Transit Commission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. That Council approve the in-camera directions referred to Council by the Transit Commission at its meeting of 25 March 2015 pertaining to collective bargaining with the Amalgamated Transit Unions and the Canadian Union of Public Employees.
Carried. Now we will move on to the consent agenda. Selection Panel Property Standards and License Appeals Committee Report. Rapport numéro 1, jeudi.
Report number 1, the juries of the Appeals Committee with respect to the standards.
Standard and License Appeals Committee, nomination au comité d'appel en matière de permis.
Nominations with respect to licenses.
City Clerks, Greffier, Municipal. Status update, council inquiries and motions for the period of ending 20th of March 2015. Rapport de situation demandée.
Status update, council inquiries and motions for the period ending the 20th of March 2015.
Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee report rapport numéro 2A du Comité d'agriculture des affaires rurales. Monahan Creek Municipal Drain South Hope Side Road modification and improvements. Modification et amélioration de drainage municipal de Monahan Creek Sud sur la rue Hope-Side. Carried. Audit Committee, Report 1A, rapport numéro 1A du Comité de vérification. Ernst & Young LLP 2014 Audit Plan de vérification de plan.
Ernst & Young LLP 2014 Audit Plan.
Audit Report Number 2, rapport numéro 2. Councillor Leeper has left the chair. Office of the Auditor General Annual Report and Detailed Audit Reports. Bureau du Vérificateur Général.
Office of the Auditor General, OAG, Annual Report and Detailed Audit Reports.
All right. Item number 6, Office of the Auditor General, OAG 2015 Work Plan. Bureau de Vérification Générale.
Office of the Auditor General, OAG 2015 Work Plan.
On this report, it should from Bytown Market to Byward Market. Carried. Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 2A. Rapport 2A du Comité des Finances et de Développement.
Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 2A.
Paid by members of council and council appointees. 2014 NOC de salaire des avantages sociaux.
2014 Statement of Remuneration, Benefits and Expenses paid to members of council and council appointees.
Can you read it, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And this motion was subsequent to Finance and Economic Development Committee consideration of this report at the meeting of March 3rd, 2015. Additional information has come forward from the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, MVCA, with respect to the allocation of honorism and expenses are 2-to-1 of the MVCA board member. And there's a list of where the error is, so therefore be it resolved that Council approve the document 2, Table 2 of the report 2014 Statement of Remuneration, Benefit and Expenses paid to member of Council and Council appointee be amended to indicate that MVCA member John Caro received $4,049 in honorism and $1,844 in expenses in 2014.
Thank you, Councillor Alchanteri. Received as amended? Carried as amended?
Okay.
Thank you. Number 8, amendment of terms of sale for 2720 Richmond Road, former Grant Alternative Schools to Center Multi-Service Francophone in the West, including approval of first mortgage on the property.
Amendment of the terms of sale of 2720 Richmond Road, former Grant Alternative School to Center Multi-Services Francophone de l'Ouest, CMFO, including approval of first mortgage on the property.
Hold. Which one? Who was requested? Okay, thank you. Councillor Riley. Rockington. Okay. Planning Committee Report 3B, Rapport 3B du Comité d'urbanisme. Designation of
Planning Committee Report 3.
590 Broadview Avenue under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Designation de l'école publique Broadview située.
Designation of Broadview Public School 590 Broadview Avenue under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act.
Dissent.
Okay, dissent as noted, Madam Chair. Thank you. Official Plan Amendment and Zoning Bylaw Amendment 443, 445, 447 MacArthur Avenue. Modification.
Official Plan Amendment and Zoning Bylaw Amendment 443, 445, and 447 MacArthur Avenue.
We have a technical amendment to this item. Could you
So I will
just give
just read
the
the
quick
operative.
version, please?
So therefore be it resolved, report ACS 2015-PAI-PGM-0017 be amended by deleting the entirety of the report recommendations section as stated on page 2 of the report. And number 2, that the same report be amended by adding document 7, proposed official plan amendment as attached. Number 3, that the report be amended by adding document 8, details of the recommended zoning as follows. The zoning map of bylaw 2008-250 is amended by rezoning the land shown in document 1 from TM to what we have TM, whatever it is. Amend section 239, urban exceptions, by adding a new exception similar in effect to the following. And I can skip to be it further resolved that pursuant to the Planning Act subsection 417, no further notice be given.
Thank you. Carry as amended? Okay.
It's 3 to...
Carry on the technical amendment? Okay. Technical amendment? Are you dissenting on the technical amendment? No? Okay. And so carry on the report as amended? Okay. So two dissents here. You got them? 3. Okay. Thank you. Planning Committee Report 4. Rapport 4 du Comité de
Planning Committee number 4.
69 Terry Fox Drive, modification au règlement de zonage 469.
Zoning bylaw amendment, Terry Fox Drive, 469, adopté.
Amendment number 12, amendment to the draft mature neighborhoods bylaw 2012-147, Ontario Municipal Board mediated settlement, modification au règlement préliminaire.
Amendments to the draft mature neighborhoods bylaw 2012-147, Ontario Municipal Board mediated settlement.
I'd like to speak on this.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just want to note a few things about how innovative, important, and impactful this policy is before we vote today. This policy is the first of its kind in Canada. Nowhere else has a municipality developed a policy to preserve neighborhood character. It provides residents peace of mind that what their streets look like now is what they will look like in the future. This policy is the result of 5 years' worth of consultations and collaborations with residents and the development industry, and what's before us today has the added bonus of avoiding OMB, cost of an OMB hearing. I want to thank the tireless Beth Demarest, thank you, who has devoted a good chunk of her career to this, Alain Miguelis, and for his devotion to making Ottawa a great city, and Leanne Snedden, I don't know if Leanne's here, for leading the charge to bring this project to a successful conclusion. This bylaw will deliver infill that fits, and that's a big accomplishment. Well done, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Arder. Carried?
Carried.
Oh, forget it.
Transportation Committee, Report 2A, rapport 2A du Comité de Transport, level crossing closure grant for Brookfield Multi-Service Pathway, subvention pour la fermeture.
Level crossing closure grant for Brookfield Multi-Use Pathway.
At this time, there was no request to remove items from the bulk consent agenda. However, Councillor Leeper has indicated that he has a question on item number N. Can you ask that question, Councillor Leeper? Sorry?
May I ask that it be held, item N?
You want to hold the items? Sure. Yes. Okay.
Okay, so whatever the process is, I need to...
Any other items to be removed from the bulk consent? Okay. Carried on the remaining items? Okay, so we go back to Councillor Leeper's held item, which was number 8, amendment of terms of sale for 2720 Richmond Road. Councillor Leeper? Rockington, sorry.
Are we doing Grant first? We're going to do Grant now, Mr. Chair? Okay. With respect to item 8 on the agenda, I just needed clarification from staff. I've read the report. Clarification from staff with respect to this item. I just want to receive clarification about risk to the City of Ottawa if certain things happen or don't happen. I understand that there is risk involved, but I just want to make sure before we vote on this item it's clear in my mind. Could I just have a brief reply from staff, please?
Peter Radke from Real Estate Office. So I would say that we still need to complete the sales transaction with them upon council approval. There is the biggest change with the report before council today is that when the construction bids came in, the bids were over their budget, and they had asked for to be able to place a mortgage on the property of up to $850,000. So from a financial point of view, the risk would be that the bank would have a first position on the mortgage, and if the city were to decide to act on their option to repurchase the property, then they would have to make the bank whole on whatever was left on that mortgage. But such an action would come back before council for a decision.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Leeper?
So my understanding is that if the organization were to fail, the bank would obviously have that first lender priority. So if we were to reacquire the property, that it's a $2 million or $1.9 million property that we're giving to the community organization, in order to get it back, we would have to discharge that debt, or it reverts to the bank. So the bank would receive a $2 million property for essentially $850,000 at most. What is our feeling right now with respect to the ability for this organization to carry that mortgage? Do we have a good understanding of what their sustainability is moving forward?
Through the Deputy Mayor. Yeah. As mentioned in the report, the CMFO is proposing a community center to serve the Francophone residents in West Ottawa. Their business plan is to retrofit the building to a multi-use service center that will include community groups and daycare services. So they are right now securing leases, and their business plan has been reviewed by the bank also, and so their plan looks stable right now.
Okay. So we have confidence that there's going to be the revenue stream for them moving forward to carry this mortgage and to discharge it.
Yes, I mean, they have the prospects, so they still have to secure the leases, and they want to have that done before the school year starts in the fall for their main tenants.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
No further questions. Motion carried. Now we go on to 2014 annual report pursuant to building code held by Councillor Leeper.
Thank you. I was taking a look at the building code report. I'm interested in hearing from staff about the level of the capital reserve. There are 3 reserve funds into which surpluses are put. One of those funds is and forgive me if I don't get the title exactly right, but it is the Building Code Capital Fund, which is intended to purchase trucks, IT systems, etc. That surplus that fund currently stands at $12.4 million roughly at year-end, December 31st, 2014. taking a look back, it has gone from, in 2009, $6.8 million, 6.4, 8, 5.1, big jump to 13.9, a little bit of a reduction to get to this $12.4 million. Is there a cap on how big this fund should be? I get the sense when I'm looking at how this fund has grown that it is larger than what we need with respect to a prudent reserve. I'm wondering how the decisions are made to put the money into the capital versus the insurance versus the operational reserve. Should we be looking next year at putting less into the capital? Can I get some flavor around that? I think it would help me as a new councillor.
Mr. Chair, I'll have a few comments, and then I'll ask Mr. Badin, the Acting Chief Building Inspector, to provide some comments. So in terms of the Capital Contribution Fund, we have increased over the years to allow us to move into a number of technological changes we're going to have to make to the systems we have within the building system. So that's going to cost many millions of dollars. So we've certainly been trying to have that fund built to the point where we could carry that out. We certainly have discussions every year when we look at the fund, because we are, in our opinion, reaching the cap of where we need the funds for all three, and we can't use that money for anything else. So what we contemplate is probably, this year we don't anticipate much of a reserve coming to us, but if it does, we'd be looking at then reducing building permit fees with the excess that we do have.
Okay, no, that's
good. Thank you. Is there any more questions on this item? So move that they approve the 2014 annual report pursuant to the Building Code Act. Carried. Okay, so now we go to motion to adopt reports by motion pour l'adoption de rapport de conseiller Fleury et Tierney.
The report from the Selection Panel, Property Standards and License Appeals Committee, Report 1, the report from the City Clerk and Solicitor entitled Status Update, Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending the 20th of March 2015, Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Report 2A, Audit Committee Reports 1A and 2, Finance and Economic Development Committee Report 2A, Planning Committee Reports 3B and 4, and Transportation Committee 2A be received and adopted as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Fleury.
Adopted. Carried.
Carried. Motion of which notices have been previously given. Councillor Newsbound, can you introduce your motion?
This is this is a motion for which we had noticed at the last meeting related to the Built Heritage Subcommittee and the fact that although we held a facilitated session this past month, we won't be in a situation to look at our revised terms of reference as stated in the governance report until sometime in the spring, and therefore this was a simple shift of language to enable the Built Heritage Subcommittee to comment on heritage overlay matters, and the amendment is from after April 1st, 2015 to after July 1st, 2015. Thank you.
Any questions? Carried. Okay, so now we'll move to motion requiring suspension of the rules of procedure, motion exigeant la suspension des règles de procédure. The first one that we have is Councillor EYYhHBwMKdY and seconded by Councillor Sorelli on 50 Capilano development charges.
Mr. Chair. This is a motion to assist the City View Curling Club in rebuilding, and essentially what it does is we would be paying them back or giving them a credit for part of the development charges they'd be doing because they're demolishing and rebuilding. This just
gives them the credit up front, which increases their cash flow and makes it easier for them to keep the club open during construction, so the people in my community, Councillor Shirelli's community, can continue to curl there. It'd be most helpful for the club, keeps it going, keeps it alive, and helps them with their construction process. So I'd appreciate it if everybody could support the motion. It's also staff supported. Thank you.
Is a waiver of the rules carried? The motion carried. Second one is Councillor EYYhHBwMKdY and seconded by Councillor Moffat on FEDCO terms and reference.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This motion moved myself, seconded by Councillor Moffat, that the rules of procedure be waived to consider the following motion due to the fact that the Finance Economic Development Committee is scheduled to consider at first the debenture bylaw at its meeting of April 2nd, 2013. Whereas 2014-2018 Council Governance Review Report recommended the elimination of the debenture committee at the transfer of responsibility to the Finance Economic Development Committee, and whereas accordingly to the Finance Economic Development Committee's term of reference approved by Council on February 11, 2015, included a new section on debentures under the heading Specific Responsibilities, and whereas upon a further review of these terms of reference by staff and finance and legal services, there was a desire to include greater specificity with respect to the delegated authority granted through the new delegation of authority bylaw number 2014-435. Therefore, be resolved that bullet 1 under debentures be amended by adding the words "or proceeded with one or more bank loan or entered onto bank loan agreement, interest rate exchange agreement, or bonded forward agreement pursuant to Section 16 as applied to debit issue as further described in." So that's the bullet now reads as follows. The authority to enact debenture bylaw to authority the insurance of debentures where the project debit authority has been approved by Council and the Treasurer has proceeded with one or more debit issue pursuant to Section 15 or proceeded with one or more bank loan or enter into bank loan agreement, interest rate exchange agreement, or bond forward agreements pursuant to Section 16 as they apply to debit issuance as further described in Schedule A of Bylaw Number 2014-435, the Delegation of Authority Bylaw. Be it further resolved that bullet 2 and 3 under debenture be corrected by replacing reference to debenture committee with Finance and Economic Development Committee.
Thank you. There was just a minor error on the number. It should be meeting of April 2nd, 2015. Is waiver of rules carried?
Correct.
Is the item carried? Thank you. Next one is Councillor McKinney, and seconded by Councillor Deans on federal and provincial funding day programs. Councillor McKinney.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just want to, did you want me to read out the full motion, or should I just give a little bit of a, okay. Okay. I think everybody is familiar with this. We recently had an allocation process where monies were reallocated as per some federal funding under a housing first approach, which meant that, it resulted in a change in the operational structure for some of our community's day programs. And these day programs, many of them also offer programs and services on behalf of the city. So, these programs have not seen a change in their funding since 2000. This is a sudden change for those day programs who offer services on our behalf. So this essentially, the motion, will help them to maintain operational viability while transitioning their programs to accommodate the funding change that they've seen. So essentially, we've got agencies who, got both federal and city funding, continue to get funding from us, but it is a significant change for them. So this will essentially be a one-time allocation of $50,000 from the city's one-time and unforeseen account, which agencies who qualify, who continue to offer services for this on behalf of the city, can apply to our community and social services. So it's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Deans, and looking for support on that. Thank you.
Is the waivers and the rules carried? On the item, Councillor Fleury.
Thank you. Looking as we go back to this challenge, we've done a lot of coverage, received a lot of comments from the clients, but also from residents. I think it's important for us to remember that. First off, I'm supportive of the motion, but I think it's important for us to not focus necessarily on the organization, but the clients themselves as we transition our supports or that funding to perhaps new organizations or renew our engagement with existing ones. It's important that no clients are left behind. It's residents that are vulnerable, that need the supports that are existing in our community. So I want to reaffirm my support for that motion. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing the list of successful organizations as the transition dates is happening, I think, at the end of this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fleury. Councillor Kakish.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just have a quick question. I spoke with Councillor McKinney offline and prepared to support the motion, but one of the concerns I have in the criteria here is that we don't have clarification on how this would be rolled out. The pot of money is there, it's $50,000, but we've heard from many groups at Community and Protective Services Committee who want more funding as a result of some of the changes that they're seeing from their provincial funding. So what are the criteria and how would this application work?
So my understanding and reading of the motion is that essentially we would consult with the 9-day programs or 8-day programs that receive direct municipal funding, and we would get a recommendation from them as to what are their needs and how is best to expend that $50,000 to meet those requirements. And then we would have them make a recommendation, we'd go through that formal process, and it would be for operational pressures only. It would not be used for other types of pressures.
So this is open to anyone, technically, any of those agencies that would want to come and apply of those 8 or 9. We don't have a breakdown for how we're going to split this $50,000. It would be on who needs it more, but that's not being addressed, or
that's generally
the intent is not in the
that's
motion.
generally the intent and the process that we use for other types of funding within that area. The day programs are presented at CPSC in 2014 as well as 2015. They have a coalition, they have a chair, so we believe it's best to work through that chair and that coalition and come to an understanding as to what are the most immediate needs for the funding and how should it be distributed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kakish. Councillor Leeper.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment that I am very pleased to see that we were able to arrive at this lifeline for these organizations. As we move toward greater and greater emphasis on housing first, it is critical that we have the supports in place to ensure that that is successful. As we house people, they need access to exactly the kind of services that they have here in order that they're not living in isolation, where they're dealing with issues of trying to learn job skills, life skills, recovery from addiction. It's critical that we have ways for them to tap into the community and feel part of a larger community and supported. So it's not necessarily the city's obligation to step in with this lifeline, but I'm extremely pleased that we are. It's a good demonstration of what the mayor spoke about with respect to being a more caring city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leeper. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just a question to staff. This funding is because the federal and provincial governments changed the rules and is affecting people. Are we letting them know that they've done is having this impact? Because many of these programs do assist people within their housing, which is supposed to be one of their criteria, but it doesn't fit their rules. To see that if we can get the changes that are being made, and which I support moving in that direction, would be less disastrous to other agencies who've been receiving the funding for some years and have set up programs to help a lot of people.
So there are really two areas here. One is the operation of day programs, and that's what this motion specifically deals with. The day programs were not part of the RFO that was submitted. There was no applications for that funding, and no agency was actually receiving funding out of the federal programs or applications specifically for day programs. Where there are some overlap for the programs is largely in terms of the overlap in the total administration and the total funding when those things came together. So the sudden loss means these organizations are now having to adapt to a different funding stream, and they're not the only one within that bucket that's undergoing that particular change at this point in time. So that's what it's focused on. It's on the fact that to some extent some of your administrative and staffing costs are not well transitioned because the province and the feds only provide 60 days notice to us when they change funding. That's why our contracts only speak to 60 days.
Well, I think that we need to have some discussions with them about those kind of timings. They may not realize with nonprofit groups that is really difficult to deal with, and that when they change the funding parameters, there is an impact, and the city is paying up 100% of the cost of something that really is not our program, but we're going to do it because of the issues that it creates.
It's an ongoing problem with all of our provincial contracts, and not just for those in the not-profit sector, but in fact for ourselves. When we've lost contracts or the province has defunded in various areas, including employment, we've had to bear the cost of that far beyond the 60 days notice that we were provided by the province. And those are very standard government contracts today, or those 60 days. But I do understand what you're saying, and yes, it is a problem for us.
So you have actually brought this to their attention that we should be having longer periods of time to make adjustments? Because I know sometimes they then give extra funding to make adjustments. It's kind of crazy.
I think one of the areas that we are very cautious about now in terms of ourselves is when we enter into contracts, when we see those 60-day clauses, is a real cause for concern, specifically if there's no commitment to ongoing funding. If they anticipate that we're going to staff up and hire individuals for those programs and not willing to make the commitment, then typically those are areas now where the city takes a very hard look, and often we don't pursue those contracts.
Yes. And they are not willing to change that 60 days?
They have not been. That's their Treasury Board standard clause, and typically with the province, their contracts are really not open to discussion. This is the contract, and you will sign. And we have an intent to get those clauses changed, but we've not been successful to date.
We talk to you a bit further about this offline. Thank you very much. And I do support the funding. I think we need to do this kind of assistance, but I think that so many times we're put in this unfair position of having to fund things which really should not be having to be funded from tax dollars.
Precedent.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor EYYHBW.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of clarifications here. This $50,000 is a pot of a total of $50,000 that people can apply to get a portion of. It's not going to be grants of $50,000 each handed out, correct?
That's correct.
And I don't see it in here, but anyone that applied or that did not apply for this program would not be qualified to go for this grant money. Is that correct?
Essentially, anyone who currently has a municipal contract with us for funding for day programs, that's who's eligible to apply for the emergency operational assistance.
Okay, and also based on some of the comments I heard around the table here, what I understood in the first go-around with this is that none of these cuts that are taking place due to funding loss are an elimination of a service to people, that there is these services provided by other groups, and in some cases their funding's being increased. Is that correct?
Yes, the housing funding, the RFO that was issued for that funding was related to supports for people who are either living on the streets, living in rooming houses, or other types of supports. There was no funding for day programs. However, we have municipal. This is a municipal program and service. We fund it through grants to those agencies. This is to help them with the adjustment to make sure that the municipal service is maintained during the disruption based on the other levels of funding that they've lost, because in many cases they're delivering 2 contracts at the same time, and there has been some loss of efficiency for that agency, and this is what this is intended to help bridge for them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hubli. Councillor Deans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as the seconder of the motion, I just wanted to add my support for it. This is by no means an attempt to replace with city dollars money lost to some of the organizations through the Housing First program. We administer Housing First, but it's all federal and provincial dollars, and I don't believe it's in our interest to step in and take up that funding that has been changed. The Housing First policy is a good one, and when the list comes out, probably on April 1st, you'll see that there are other agencies that are getting more funding. It's 100% pass-through. It's just a change, a shift in direction. But having said that, the reason I supported this motion is because there is a reality of those day programs that they will have to transition, and this is really emergency funding to assist in the very short term with operational expenses through the transition period, and I think that's a reasonable approach to take, and that's why I'm seconding the motion and would ask my colleagues to support this motion as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Since there's no other ones, Councillor McKinney, did you want to wrap up?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to thank everyone for your comments and questions. I know that this was brought up some time ago, so it's been kind of out there, and have been having discussions with many of you. And I appreciate the input from my colleagues. I've spoken to many of you in the hall, and certainly nobody agrees that we should, that it's okay to leave agencies that serve, our vulnerable population, at any risk. One of the biggest issues raised with me was the fact that, we do have to be careful. I'm echoing what Councillor Deans just said, that we're not backfilling where the federal government has pulled some funding from day programs. We can't do that on the property tax base. It's not sustainable. It's not the right thing to do. And the mayor was clear about that, and I agreed with him at the time. But I do also want to just say 2 things. I do agree with Housing First. It is better for us. It is better for us as a city, for everyone in the city, including those folks who don't have housing or have unstable housing, to get good, strong, sustainable housing with the supports that they need to keep that housing. Nobody would argue against that. There's, we have to make sure that agencies who deliver our day programs in the meantime aren't at risk. This is what this will allow. So I just want to thank everyone for your questions, your comments, and particularly also to the mayor, who over the course of the last few weeks I've worked very closely with, and he does also share my view on how we can move forward on this in a fair way, and to show that we really are a caring city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. On the motion, carried? Okay. We have one more, and it's a motion from Councillor Shirelli and seconded by Councillor McKinney, and it's obviously has to do with something about dissent, since the way our councillor is dressed today. So, Councillor Shirelli, please present the motion.
Councillor Deans has offered hamburgers for lunch today. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKinney, whereas time-sensitive nature of this item requires suspension of the rules, needs to be considered today. Therefore, be it resolved that City Council has formally recognized Elgin Street as Sens Mile in 2010 and 2013, approving the installation of our commemorative signs to support the Ottawa Senators Hockey Club. And whereas the Ottawa Senators were 14 points out of a playoff spot in early February, and whereas the team has been on an historic streak in their last 21 games, and whereas the Ottawa Senators are now in a playoff position with 10 games left to play, and whereas Council wishes to assist residents to support the club's drive to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and whereas the current undefeated streak by the Ottawa Senators goalie Andrew Hammond ties one all-time NHL record and could beat a second within days, whereas this means the Senators' run is exceptional in history. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Ottawa install Sens Mile commemorative signs immediately on Elgin Street for the duration of the 2014-15 season. Mr. Deputy Mayor, a lot of us were around here during the Stanley Cup final season with the Senators, and the feeling out there, the outpouring of support, and the wish to be part of it all was huge, and what we have today is very similar. I think when you're in politics, the number one thing someone once said as a joke was, but it's true, is it's important to understand where you fit in the space-time continuum, and right now we are in an historic run that is magical to this city. And I think as city leaders, it's our responsibility to at least contribute to helping people get the ability to get behind this and support it. That much is very important. And a lot of people have commented along those lines to me, and I know to a number of you over the past couple of weeks. I know at Bell Media, people like Rob Snow have encouraged that we do exactly this, and I think we should still do it. Anyway, so I urge all of you to get on board and do this. There are about 2 weeks left in the season. We know that from staff they can install these and be ready in time for the game on Sunday. So logistically, it's very possible. So I urge everyone to get behind this and support the Sens.
Okay, I hope we don't jinx them. Is the waiver of the rules carried? Yeah, we have to waive the rules first. Carried, waiver of the rules? Okay, so we have a few speakers. Sports Commissioner Jody Middick. Councillor Middick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think it's a great idea. I just, as Sports Commissioner, wish I'd thought of it. And, it's pretty rare you see a team rally from the position that the Senators were in. And, as our NHL team for Ottawa, I fully support that we get behind this. And again, thanks for stealing my thunder, Rick, but it's all good. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Middick. Councillor Moffat.
Just to build really quickly on what our Deputy Mayor said, I just wanted to voice that generally in a streak like this, players won't change their jockstrap. They won't change any regular things they do every single day. So I just wanted to be clear that if they happen to lose tomorrow night to New York, that it is Rick's fault.
Absolutely.
I just want that to be on the record, that this streak is because of a certain number of factors, and that when you change something within that streak, and we've never had this motion before over the course of the streaks, this is a very unique thing within the streak. So I really think that the blame will solely lie with Councillor Chiarelli. It won't be Henrik Lundqvist. It won't be Rick Nash. It'll be Rick Chiarelli. And it's his fault if they lose. And I think, just to be clear, that the Ottawa Sun should come up with some catchy cover story with Rick's face wearing the jersey that strictly makes fun of Rick Chiarelli.
Sounds like I support that.
But I support the motion.
Is that a friend?
Thank you, Councillor Moffat. Councillor McKinney.
Thank you. Well, I don't want to share that blame if it happens, but I support the motion. Elgin Street is in my ward, and I think it's been since 2010 that we've recognized it as the Sens Mile. This has definitely ignited a sense of pride in the city. The fact that I'm paying particularly close attention means that most people are. So it's I'm on the bandwagon, but it's good for business. It's lots of fun. It allows us to show our support across the city and bring people into to one area where they can celebrate. So good luck, and Rick and the senators, and I hope that it lasts a little longer than last time.
Thank you, Councillor McKenney. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was at the game on Monday night, I guess, and I think I can't go to any more games for a while because it's very heart-stopping. But I pay for my own tickets, by the way. I go regularly. But I think one of the things here is to make sure that we don't upset the apple cart by going too soon. I'm prepared to support this going, but sometimes when you advance things, they don't end up working out. So we've got to all keep on cheering really loudly and supporting the team. They've really come together, and it's interesting to watch how they've gelled, although occasionally they let down those things, and that's when we get the heart attacks. But it will be a lot of fun having this here, and I think the city benefits by having something that they can grab onto this. It helps to build city building, and I thank Rick for bringing it forward. I've been involved with the senators since they came here, and they have always done so much for this city, and I'd like to just make sure that we continue to support them in these kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Kadri.
Just as a final exclamation mark on this discussion, go Sens go.
Thank you, Councillor Kadri. Councillor Shirelli, did you want to wrap up? No? Okay. And the media says we don't have enough discussion around the table. Okay, so on the motion? Carried. Okay, so now notices of motion. I'd like to remind all members that when they notice a motion, that it's strictly presenting the motion and no debate of the item. Councillor McKenney, Glowfair Street closures.
Thank you. I'll read it out. Whereas the Bank Street Business Improvement Area will host the annual Glowfair Music Light Art event, and whereas many of the Glowfair activities will be happening outdoors on Bank Street and Gloucester Street, including a main stage for performances, and whereas the BIA has requested the closure of Bank Street from Slater to James Street, and also Gloucester Street from O'Connor Avenue to Bank Street from 1 p.m. Friday, June 19th to 6 a.m. Sunday, June 21st, 2015, to increase the safety and security of the area. And whereas the City of Ottawa Special Events Bylaw states that no road closures be permitted on weekdays, therefore be it resolved that Council approve the road closure for Bank Street from Slater Street to James Street and Gloucester Street from O'Connor Avenue to Bank Street from 1 p.m. Friday, June 19th to 6 a.m. Sunday, June 21st, 2015 for the Glowfair Music Light Art event, providing it meets the requirements, conditions, and approval of the Special Events Advisory Team.
Thank you, Councillor McKenney. That motion is seconded by Councillor Fleury. Next motion is Councillor Brockington and seconded by Councillor Deans on airport signage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is fairly lengthy. I'm just looking to your direction whether you want me to read the whereas clauses or just summarize them.
Just the end part is fine.
The therefore clauses? Okay, yeah. Just to give some context, it's regarding airport authority signage on city right-of-way land. We have a current city roads bylaw that does not permit this. There is recognition that the signage is needed and required and useful, and that the city does want to work in partnership with the airport. There's also a whereas clause that talks about signage that was recently removed for the Park and Fly, which is near the airport. Therefore, be it resolved that City Council, 1, approve that the application of Sections 2 to 5 of Bylaw 2003-520 as amended be waived, as below, and as described in this motion to allow the Airport Authority sign to be located on the Airport Parkway at the entrance of the airport, provided that A, the Airport Authority enter into an agreement for the sign in question to address issues of placement and location, maintenance, liability, removal, and related issues to the satisfaction of the GM Planning and Growth Management on behalf of the city, and B, that the agreement further provide that all costs for installation, ongoing maintenance, and eventual removal and remediation for the sign be borne by the authority. Part 2, delegate the authority to execute the agreement with the Airport Authority to the General Manager, Planning and Growth Management on behalf of the city. Part 3, direct staff to develop a wayfinding signage program for parking in around the airport in cooperation with stakeholders and report back by Q4 2015 to the appropriate Standing Committee of Council with recommendations. And finally, Part 4, approve that until the wayfinding signage program report is considered by Council, Sections 2 to 5 of Bylaw 2003-520 as amended also be waived to allow the Ottawa Park and Fly, located at 3600 Uplands Drive, to place 7 directional signs within the city's right-of-way on an interim basis, provided that A, the Ottawa Park and Fly enter into an agreement for the signs in question to address issues of placement and location, maintenance, liability, removal, and related issues to the satisfaction of the General Manager, Planning and Growth Management on behalf of the city, and B, that the agreement further provide that all costs, and I'd like to strike the word installation, for ongoing maintenance and eventual removal and remediation for the signs be borne by Ottawa Park and Fly. So that notice of motion is provided by myself, and it will be seconded by Councillor Deans.
Councillor Mitic, and seconded by Councillor Leeper. Race weekend.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We all know race weekend is coming up. Ottawa's race weekend has become our largest tourist event in Ottawa. It also attracts about 50,000 participants every year and is forecasted to generate about $30 million in economic activity for the NCR. So therefore, be it resolved that City Council declare May 22nd, 2015 to May 24th, 2015 to be race weekend in the City of Ottawa.
Thank you, Councillor Mitic. Last one that we have is Councillor EYYhHBwMKdY, and seconded by Councillor Kakish, Municipal Election Act.
Thank you very much, Chair. This is a motion that will seek Council approval to request the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to enact legislation amending the Municipal Elections Act to permit the City of Ottawa to prohibit corporate and trade union contributions to candidates for municipal councils, consistent with the authority provided to the City of Toronto in Section 70.1, subsection 1 of the current Municipal Elections Act 1996. I think the only thing to say here is this is simply a motion that, were it to pass, would seek an amendment of the legislation and would not on its own ban union and corporate donations. It's a two-step process, so first the legislation needs to be amended, and then if Council were to so choose, as a second step, it could pass or enact bylaws which would ban union and corporate donations. But at this stage, this is not about the ban. This is simply about governance, ensuring that we're masters in our own house. It's a matter of a governance principle insofar as we would have the ability to determine this issue.
Councillor EYYhHBwMKdY,
so I'm just explaining it because...
No, it's not time to explain.
Okay.
It's just reading the motion.
Oh, then I'll stop there. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, motion to introduce bylaws, Councillor Flaherty, and seconded by Councillor Tierney.
Que les règlements énumérés à l'ordre du jour sous la...
That the bylaws listed on the agenda under motion to introduce bylaws first and second readings be read, and 3 readings be read and pass. Carried.
We've done that one. Confirmation of bylaw, règlement de ratification, Councillor Flaherty, and seconded by Councillor Tierney.
That the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of the Council meeting of 25th of March 2015.
Carried. Inquiries, we have one from Councillor EYYhHBwMKdY. Can you please read the inquiry?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Can staff please report to Council with an action plan to address what we are going to do with regards to the significant increase in frozen pipes that homes in many of our wards experienced this year? Is there a plan, for example, to inspect all locations, including the new builds that may still be covered under new home warranty programs? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hubley. Is there any other inquiries? None? Okay. Adjournment, Councillor Fleury, seconded by Councillor Tierney.
Que les délibérations du Conseil du 20
That the proceedings of the City Council meeting on March 25th be adjourned.